So let's set up our mastering session. So I've opened up a completely empty Cubase project that has absolutely nothing in it. And the first thing we're going to do is find the mix that we want to master on my hard drive. So let's say I wanted to master, I had just finished the mix to The Only Way Out, and this is the track I want to master. So the reason I'm looking at this is the first thing I want to do before I import this audio is verify the sample rate and the bit depth, and I can see that right here. It's a 44:1 16-bit, so your standard CD format. So as soon as I know that, if I go to my project setup, I will verify that I have the same specifications for my mastering project. And the reason for that is you don't want to lose any quality. If your song you were going to mix and master was at 48K or at 96K or at a higher sample rate and a higher bit depth, you definitely want to ensure that your mastering session is at those specifications so you don't lose any quality when you import. So now that they're matched, I'm going to go ahead and import the audio file, import audio file, and I'll navigate to where I made my mix, say open, and I'm going to create a copy to the working directory, to the new area that I've saved the mastering project, just so I'm not referencing the other file. And now I can see my whole mix file. Now, there's a couple things I like to do visually before I get started with the mastering process. It can be very misleading if you're using the audio file as a guide to how much compression or what the level of the actual audio file really is. For example, if I move this fader here on the right hand side, you'll notice right now my mix looks like a complete brick, to completely compressed to the maximum threshold. So the first thing I do is I lower this all the way down to 0 as if there is no visual gain to the waveform by Cubase. The other thing is I'll zoom in vertically and then I'll close this right hand side because I don't need it and do Shift F to kind of get a nice overview of my whole waveform. And immediately I know what I'm looking at is a true representation of the waveform. I can see that I still have some headroom for mastering, which is exactly what you want. I can eyeball very roughly where the peaks of this track are going to be, and it looks like perhaps right around here or here. Now with this waveform fully zoomed in vertically and horizontally, what I'll do is add the mixer within this one window, and you do that by opening the lower zone and selecting. You'll have a couple options here. We'll select the mixer view, and right here we can look at our audio file as well as our stereo out. So if I hit play now, I'll keep an eye out on the peak amounts. So there's a peak value there, about minus 1.9. I'll just keep that in mind. Let's go over here and take a listen. Great, so there was a higher peak here at minus 1.1, and that's generally about as high as it gets on this track. So I'll keep that in mind because this we will apply to the limiter in just a second. Now there is another way to quickly analyze or have Cubase analyze your whole file digitally. So you do that by going to Audio and selecting the Statistics. Now this went ahead and analyzed my whole track. What I want to look at is very quickly kind of see what the true peaks are, minus 1.1, and that's kind of what we had here as an indication as to how high this whole track gets. So this just confirms what I saw, so I can close this and just remember that for my limiter value, which we'll add right now. So on the stereo out, we'll go to our channel settings. And right here on the last slot of the inserts, I'm going to add my limiter. Type in limiter. There are several third-party limiters that I have on my system, but I'm going to use the default Cubase limiter. And now listen through the last portion of the song here. So I can quickly see my peaks on my input and my output are identical because I haven't done anything to the limiters. I can reset the values at any time by clicking on here. which is very handy. But now let's start dialing in the settings that we want to use for our limiter. So the first thing I'll do is work on the output, and I'll set that to minus 0.1. This will ensure that any level that comes into this limiter will never exceed 0.1 decibels, and thus my mix will never be louder than this. Remember that minus 1.1 peak value that we had on our track. We're going to go ahead and boost the input signal by that same peak value. So I'll go here, and instead of minus 1.1, I'm going to add 1.1. And now, when I play through the same section, you'll notice that the peak value we'll get out of our output should be around minus 0.1, because we've gained the whole signal there. As you can see, we're now at minus 0.1 on our peak level, and the limiter is acting to stop it from ever clipping. So this is exactly what we want. We've now made up the headroom that we had in the mix initially, and the limiter is making sure we don't clip. So now we're going to add a multiband compressor. And what this allows you to do is compress 4 bands independently on the lows, the low mids, the high mids, and the highs. You're able to solo the various sections. And really control what areas you're compressing. You can see those are the gain reductions. So all the same items apply that we did with our regular compressor. But now we have complete control over the frequencies by moving through the frequency spectrum up here and compressing each of the 4 bands independently. You can change the ratio of each band independently. And if you just want to find a nice preset, so let's say this is a rock master. That's with the plugin, without the plugin. So another handy feature to use while you're mastering is using supervision. It's a great tool to be able to monitor and meter all the different meters that you would want to keep track of for your mix. So once you've set up your multiband compressor and set up a limiter that will help decide where we're going to peak out at in terms of our signal, it's always nice, especially when you're mastering, to use this tool. And like I said, it's called supervision, and you can find it under Analyzer, or you can just type in, it's right there, see supervision. Or, of course, if you don't know where it is exactly, you can just type in supervision, and it's there. It's the top one. And it's really totally customizable, like everything that we've been learning in the course, depending on what you want to look at. So it's a hovering window, so you can move it to another screen if you wanted, if that's quite handy. So I'll hit play here. So I'm just keeping track of my, the true peaks here and what's going on with my mix. What I like about this plugin is you can go ahead and start configuring this to add other meters that you might be interested in looking at. So right now it's showing level. Why don't I show my level and my loudness at the same time? So I've got all my parameters literally in one window, which is, like I said, really, really handy. Let's say I want to add another one on the right-hand side of this lower zone. I can go ahead and do that. Or I can get rid of that by just, Xing that out. If I add one up here, then I can add a secondary one right there. So really customizable to what you want to work with. You can split screens within, you can add like this. So right now, if I wanted to show, I changed my mind and I wanted leveling and loudness to be up here on the top, of course I can go ahead and do that. I'll just go here, I'll make this loudness now, and then let's say I changed my mind on the meter that I wanted on this one. Let's say I wanted to look at, let's say, the phase scope. Which is a smaller one, so it might be interesting to just go ahead and add 2 more of these smaller icons underneath that I can resize because they take less room, and choose some other visual aids here, a spectrum bar, and this one, let's say I want to see the spectrogram. And now when I hit play, I literally have everything that I would kind of want to see in one place, and it's really, really well done. It's cleverly integrated into the program, as you can see, very easy to use. So definitely check this out and have it ready on your masters or on your mixes.